A field report, sealed in urgency, was never meant to be read aloud, but tonight, its ink feels too heavy to ignore. In recap, Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Dao Chapter 1683, Chapter 1684, the Dark Moon Army stands atop an impossible victory. Not a single life lost, while the Empress carved through fleeing bandits, and Ling Han's lightning sword guarded every heartbeat on the battlefield. Yet triumph has only sharpened a more dangerous choice. From the mouths of captured survivors emerges a name whispered with dread, Jiang Wushang, and a hidden stronghold buried beneath forest and stone, guarded by hundreds, including peak St. Kings. The soldiers urge retreat, reason over recklessness, but Ling Han has already decided. Not for glory, not for duty, but for something far more ruthless. Now 2 figures step alone into a valley no outsider was meant to find, where a single scream will awaken an entire den of wolves, and where beauty, blood, and arrogance collide in the blink of a sword flash. And as the first deputy chief falls before he can even finish his laughter, one question lingers in the air. When the king of bandits finally emerges, will this still be a hunt, or the beginning of a slaughter no one can control? The battlefield had only just quieted, yet the air still trembled with the lingering echoes of slaughter. Moments earlier, the Empress had descended like a storm incarnate, her movements fierce, her strikes merciless, as though the heavens themselves had unleashed wrath upon the mountain bandits. Wherever she passed, enemies fell like leaves in a tempest. And above it all, unseen yet ever present, Ling Han stood as the silent guardian of the battlefield. His divine sense stretched far and wide, blanketing the entire clash like an invisible net. Every flicker of danger, every desperate cry, every clash of blades, nothing escaped his perception. The moment any soldier from the Dark Moon Army fell into peril, Ling Han's fingers would twitch ever so slightly. Then, lightning. The lightning sword technique tore through the air faster than thought itself. A streak of brilliance, a whisper of death. Before the enemy could even comprehend what had happened, their weapon would be shattered, their attack nullified, their life extinguished. As long as the opponent had not reached the severing mundane tier, there was no escaping that strike. Time passed. Gradually, realization dawned upon the soldiers. Again and again, just as death loomed, salvation arrived in the form of a flash of swordlight. Not one of them suffered a fatal blow. Not one of them fell beyond recovery. Hope surged. Fear vanished. The new recruits, who had once trembled at the thought of battle, suddenly felt an unshakable sense of security. It was as if an unseen shield guarded their lives. With their backs protected, courage blossomed within them. They roared as they charged, their blades no longer hesitant. In stark contrast, despair crept into the hearts of the mountain bandits. No matter how fiercely they fought, no matter how viciously they attacked, they could not kill a single soldier. They could not even inflict grievous wounds. Every attempt was thwarted, every strike rendered meaningless. Morale crumbled. Retreat! 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 A voice rang out sharply, the apparent leader among the bandits. Panic had already seized him, and without waiting for others, he turned and fled like a stray dog escaping the butcher's blade. But before the Empress, who could escape? Her figure flickered, her killing intent cold and absolute. One by one, the fleeing bandits were cut down, their hopes of survival extinguished before they could even take 10 steps. In a short span of time, the entire group was annihilated. Only 3 trembling survivors were left alive, spared not out of mercy, but for questioning. The battlefield fell silent. Victory, a complete and overwhelming victory. On the side of the Dark Moon Army, not a single soldier suffered severe injury. At most, a few bore light wounds, mere scratches compared to the carnage they had faced. Even official military forces might not have achieved such a flawless result. Excitement surged through the ranks. They all understood the truth behind this triumph. Ling Han and the Empress. Without them, this would have been a bloody disaster. With them, it became a one-sided slaughter. Confidence, once shattered, now returned stronger than ever. So what if we were the leftovers? Some thought silently. So what if we were the ones not chosen? As long as their captain and his wife stood with them, what force in this world could oppose them? In this single battle, Ling Han earned something more valuable than victory. He earned the unwavering respect of every soldier under his command. Later, Ling Han interrogated the 3 surviving bandits separately. Their trembling confessions revealed a deeper truth. This was not the full force of the mountain bandits. Their leader was named Jiang Wushang, a figure of terrifying strength, far beyond his deputies. Even the deputy chiefs, powerful in their own right, were nothing compared to him. And the remaining bandits? Roughly 300. Ling Han's eyes flickered. Without hesitation, he made his decision. The main force would remain behind to rest. He and the Empress would advance alone into the heart of the bandits' lair and wipe them out entirely. The moment his words fell, opposition erupted. "Captain, this is too dangerous. Their strength far exceeds our information. There are 8 deputy chiefs, all incredibly powerful. And over 30 peak stage Saint Kings." Voices overlapped, filled with urgency. "It's better to report back," one soldier urged. "We'll still earn merit. There's no need to risk everything." "Yes, Captain. Please reconsider." For once, their concern was genuine. They were no longer questioning Ling Han. They were worried for him. After all, this man and the Empress beside him, their future potential was beyond imagination. Given enough time, 10,000 years, a million years, they might step into the legendary severing mundane tier. Such allies were treasures beyond measure. Ling Han listened, then smiled, a calm, unwavering smile. He shook his head. He would go. Why? The answer was simple. How many merchants had these bandits slaughtered? How many caravans had they robbed, leaving none alive? In just a few short years, they had amassed a mountain of wealth stained with blood. If he destroyed them now, all that wealth would belong to him. Reporting information? What reward could compare to that? Without further debate, Ling Han and the Empress set off. The 3 bandits had already revealed the exact location of the stronghold. With a clear route in mind, the 2 advanced swiftly through the mountains. At their level of strength, ambushes were meaningless. No trap could threaten them. No scheme could ensnare them. The mountain paths twisted and turned, steep and treacherous. Dense forests obscured the sky, making aerial travel unreliable and disorienting. Thus, step by step, they pressed forward. Nearly half a day later, they arrived. Even with precise directions, the place was difficult to find, hidden so well it seemed swallowed by the world itself. No wonder even large merchant groups, hiring countless elites, had failed to eradicate them. The entrance was concealed between 2 massive rocks, narrow, cramped. One had to compress their body to squeeze through. But once inside, the world opened. A vast valley stretched before them, breathtaking in its scale. At its center stood a colossal tree, its crown spreading outward like a canopy of heaven, covering the entire valley beneath its shadow. From above, nothing could be seen. Without passing through that hidden entrance, this place would remain forever undiscovered. The moment Ling Han and the Empress stepped into the clearing, they were seen. "Ye intruders!" a bandit shouted in surprise. Then another voice followed, filled with shameless delight. "Heavens, what beauty! Even if I die today, it's worth it." The Empress had removed her veil. Her peerless visage, unveiled to the world, struck the bandits like a divine revelation. Their eyes glazed over, their minds lost, as if their souls had been stolen in an instant. They forgot caution. They forgot danger. They forgot themselves. Ling Han's lips curled into a cold smile. His hand clenched. Then opened. Sword chi erupted. More than a dozen streaks of light shot forth like celestial lightning. Poop, poop, poop. In an instant, 11 bandits collapsed, their bodies crumpling as blood spilled across the earth. In the celestial realm, Genesis tier cultivators were insignificant. Their deaths did not stir the heavens. Only the fall of celestial kings would shake the world. At the entrance, 12 bandits had stood guard. Now, only one remained. The perverse grin still lingered on his face for a fleeting moment, before terror consumed him. His body trembled violently. Then he screamed, a scream of pure horror. Turning on his heels, he fled deeper into the valley, shouting wildly as his voice echoed throughout the entire stronghold. Ling Han had spared him deliberately. He needed a signal, a call to gather every bandit into one place. Mercy? There was none. These bandits slaughtered without leaving survivors. Women who fell into their hands suffered fates worse than death, tormented beyond imagination before being killed. Such creatures did not deserve mercy. Soon, chaos erupted. From stone huts and wooden shelters, bandits poured out in waves, weapons drawn, faces fierce, their presence filled with brutality. Some had once been criminals, others had once been innocent, driven here by tyranny. But once they became bandits, they all changed. Conscience buried, humanity discarded. Bloodshed twisted their minds. They believed the world had wronged them, and so they unleashed their hatred upon the innocent. Then they saw her. What a beauty. Voices hushed. Even in the face of an enemy, the Empress's beauty captivated them completely, softening their expressions, making them forget the danger before them. Ling Han chuckled lightly. "My wife," he said calmly, "is not for you to covet." His gaze swept across them. "Which one of you is Jiang Wushang? Step forward and meet your death." A roar of laughter answered him. "Ha ha! Who do you think you are?" A middle-aged man stepped forward, his aura heavy and oppressive. He was one of the deputy chiefs, his strength placing him among the peak stage Saint Kings. In the celestial realm, advancing into the Genesis tier was easy. Reaching its peak was also easy. Then came billions of years. To temper, to refine, to grow stronger. Those who survived that long were no ordinary beings. And yet, before him stood two mere great saints. And they dared challenge this den of wolves? "Brat," the deputy chief sneered, eyes glinting with mockery. "Did you come here to offer your wife as tribute?" Laughter exploded around him, crude and unrestrained. But then it stopped, abruptly. A sharp, wet sound echoed. Pooh! Blood burst from the deputy chief's chest, spraying outward like a crimson fountain. It splashed across the faces of nearby bandits, even entering the mouths of those still laughing moments ago. Their laughter froze, eyes widened. Before them, their deputy chief's body trembled, then slowly collapsed. A smile still lingered on his lips, but his eyes were filled with terror. He was dead, and no one had even seen how. In the heart of the desolate valley, where shadows clung to jagged cliffs like lingering ghosts, a shocking silence fell. A peak stage Saint King, one who once stood like a towering mountain among cultivators, had been reduced to ashes in a single instant. Ling Han slowly withdrew his fingers, his expression calm as still water, as though he had merely brushed away dust. His gaze turned toward the bamboo dwellings deeper within the valley, and his voice rang out, steady yet commanding. "Jiang Wushang, come out and meet me." The remaining mountain bandits trembled. Their eyes darted toward one another, uncertainty flashing across their faces. Yet the few deputy chiefs who still stood clenched their fists, their expressions turning vicious. "We attack together," one of them roared. "Kill the man and capture the woman alive." Even in their fear, none could bring themselves to strike down the Empress. Her beauty was otherworldly, like a celestial fairy descended upon mortal soil. To destroy such perfection felt like a crime against heaven itself. But Ling Han? To them, he was nothing but a threat that had to be erased. With a thunderous roar, hundreds of bandits leapt into the air at once. Their auras surged wildly as they unleashed their full strength. Silver streams of energy surged forth like celestial rivers, stars forming and shattering within them as fragments of profound regulations manifested. Every one of them had stepped into the Genesis tier. Anything less would never have earned a place among these ruthless outlaws. "Die!" Before their attacks could fully descend, the Empress let out a cold snort. In that instant, 9 identical figures appeared around her, her doppelgangers, each radiating terrifying power. They moved in perfect harmony, unleashing devastating techniques that painted the valley in blinding brilliance. Divine light erupted like a storm of falling stars, each beam carrying the weight of death itself. At the same moment, Ling Han made his move. A blazing inferno erupted from his body. It was no ordinary flame. It roared like the end of an age, like the fire that heralds destruction, yet within it also lay the purity of rebirth, a force that could cleanse all corruption and usher in a new dawn, the 9 heavens flame. As Ling Han's cultivation had grown, so too had the might of this ancient flame, one of the 9 great ancestral flames of the celestial realm. Its power was nothing short of tyrannical. The fire surged outward, sweeping across the battlefield. The bandits barely had time to scream. One after another, their bodies were swallowed by the inferno, reduced instantly to drifting ashes that scattered in the wind. "Run! Run for your lives!" Panic shattered their ranks. Within mere exchanges, their confidence had crumbled into despair. Faces pale as death, they turned and fled in all directions. This couple, they were not human, they were demons, but escape was not so easily granted. Ling Han raised a hand, and the 9 heavens flame twisted and wove through the sky, forming a massive net that sealed the entire valley. Every path of escape was blocked by searing fire. At the only land exit, Ling Han and the Empress stood like twin guardians of judgment, cutting off any hope of survival. Virtue has its reward, and evil meets its retribution, Ling Han said coldly. This is the law of karma. Driven into a corner, the bandits' eyes turned bloodshot. Fight! They howled, charging once more. This time, desperation erased all restraint. Even the Empress became a target of their frenzied assault. What was beauty compared to survival? They were criminals who lived on the edge of death, not poets who admired flowers. But desperation could not bridge the gulf between them. The difference in power was absolute. What followed was not a battle. It was a massacre. Ling Han showed no mercy. His heart held nothing but disdain for these men who had spread suffering across countless lives. As for the Empress, her gaze was cold and detached. In her eyes, all beings aside from Ling Han and those connected to him were no different from stray animals. To her, killing them was no more significant than crushing ants beneath her feet. 15 minutes. That was all it took. When the flames died down, not a single bandit remained alive. Even the deputy chiefs, once feared figures, had fallen in an instant, unable to withstand even a single strike. The valley fell silent once more. Then, clap, clap, clap. A slow, deliberate applause echoed through the stillness. From within a modest bamboo house, a man stepped out. He wore black robes, his complexion pale and refined. His features were delicate, almost scholarly, and he appeared no older than his 30s. There was nothing about him that resembled a ruthless bandit leader. Ling Han narrowed his eyes slightly. Jiang Wushang? The man inclined his head. Indeed. Ling Han felt a flicker of surprise. He had imagined the leader of such a savage band to be a brutish, barbaric figure, not a cultured scholar who looked more suited to holding a scroll than a blade. Jiang Wushang folded his hands in greeting. Judging from your strength, I will not survive this calamity today, he said calmly. But before you strike, I ask that you listen to my story. Ling Han studied him for a moment, curiosity stirring within. Go on. Jiang Wushang closed his eyes briefly, as if gathering fragments of a shattered past. When I was younger, I was not truly a cultivator, he began. My passion lay in the study of ancient history. I spent my days researching forgotten records, piecing together the past. I married a gentle, beautiful woman, and we had a son. He was bright and lively, the joy of my life. His voice softened, then trembled. Though others praised my talent in cultivation, I despised violence. I wanted nothing to do with killing. He paused. Then his eyes opened, and a storm of fury surged within them. But one day, everything was taken from me. His voice grew hoarse. I left home to discuss historical records with a friend. When I returned, he clenched his fists. My wife and my son were dead. The air seemed to freeze. I nearly lost my mind, he continued. But after forcing myself to calm down, I followed every clue I could find. In the end, I learned the truth. It was the profligate son of the Ding clan. He coveted my wife's beauty. He tried to force himself upon her, but she refused. She chose death over dishonor, and he beat her to death with his own hands. Jiang Wushang's voice trembled with suppressed rage. And my son, my 3-year-old child, he threw him aside like trash, killing him without a second thought. A heavy silence fell. I went to the Ding clan to seek justice, he said bitterly, but I couldn't even step through their gates. I was beaten half to death and thrown outside the city to rot. I should have died, but heaven spared me. A spring burst forth from the ground, a sweet fountain that healed my wounds. His expression darkened. I knew then that the Ding clan was too powerful. I would never avenge my family. So I became what I am now, a bandit. Every merchant group that left Dark Moon City, I slaughtered them all, not for wealth, but to cause trouble for the Ding clan. Ling Han listened in silence. There was tragedy here, deep and undeniable, but there was also madness. For the sake of vengeance, Jiang Wushang had slaughtered countless innocents. How many families had suffered the same fate as his own because of him? His heart had long since been twisted beyond recognition. Ling Han spoke after a long pause. You possess extraordinary talent, he said. As a peak stage Saint King, why did you not attempt to break into the severing mundane tier? You might have had a chance at revenge. Jiang Wushang looked up at the sky. A faint, gentle smile appeared on his lips. What I cannot let go of is my love for my wife and son, he said softly. The first severance in the severing mundane tier would require me to cut that bond. He shook his head. If I must forget them to gain power, then I would rather remain weak. The path of the severing mundane tier demanded that one sever their deepest mortal attachments. But it was precisely those attachments that made one human. To cast them aside was no simple matter. Jiang Wushang had chosen to hold on to his love, even if it meant abandoning his chance at vengeance. Ling Han let out a quiet sigh. "Your sins are too great," he said at last. "I have no choice but to kill you." He paused. "But I give you my word, one day I will destroy the Ding clan and bring justice for what they have done." Jiang Wushang laughed, a clear, unrestrained sound. "Whether you succeed or not, I thank you," he said. "This will be my final battle." He straightened, his aura rising like a tidal wave. "Allow me, one who despises fighting, to end my life in a battle worthy of remembrance." With a shout, his power erupted. A terrifying presence spread outward, so overwhelming that even peak stage Saint Kings would tremble before it. "When I was in the Eternal River tier," he said calmly, "I formed 6 million stars." He looked at them steadily. "Had I truly pursued cultivation, I might have reached 8 million, or even the ultimate 10 million. Do not underestimate me. If you fall by my hand, then that would be a fine ending indeed." Ling Han glanced at the Empress. "I will face him." Despite everything, Jiang Wushang was still a man worthy of respect in his final moments. The Empress gave a slight nod. Then she stepped aside, leaving the battlefield to Ling Han alone. The wind stirred, and the final battle began to draw its breath.